Contrary to popular belief, Agent Orange did not get its name from being orange in color, but rather it was colorless and received its name from the orange band placed around each canister. Used as a tactile weapon by the U.S. Army during the Vietnam War, this herbicide was integral in the defoliation process of the jungles of Vietnam, Thailand, and select places of Korea. The herbicide allowed for U.S. troops to locate and disrupt communist strategies at play, such as transportation routes, communication lines, and base camps, among others.
The health effects of Agent Orange were not immediately obvious to all the soldiers who were exposed. Some of the immediate effects of the chemical were chloracne, a tingling feeling in the fingers or toes, shortness of breath, and possibly edema. So the immediate effects of Agent Orange would be normal symptoms of anyone who has been stuck in a tropical rainforest for months. However, the long-term effects were much more severe. Long-term consequences of exposure to the chemical include increased risk of many different types of fatal cancers, neurological disorders such as Parkinson's, immune system defects, and possibly reproductive defects.
More than 19 million gallons of herbicides, including Agent Orange, were sprayed across the forests and villages of Vietnam from 1962 to 1971. When veterans came home from Vietnam, many carried symptoms no one could explain, such as rare cancers, nerve disorders, and immune problems. For many years, veterans fought to prove the diseases they carried derived from military service, but for decades their claims were dismissed.
Agent Orange negatively affected the health of many veterans. In the process of trying to get medical coverage, the veterans sued the government and other corporations that were responsible for the creation and the use of Agent Orange. In 1979, President Jimmy Carter authorized the VA to research the health effects of Agent Orange, and in 1991, the Agent Orange Act was passed to give veterans benefits.
In 1991, Congress passed the Agent Orange Act, a landmark law that recognized the toxic impact of the dioxin-contaminated herbicides used in Vietnam. The act required the Department of Veterans Affairs to automatically presume certain illnesses like Hodgkin's disease, non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, and soft tissue sarcoma were caused by Agent Orange exposure. Major players included Senator Tom Daschle, who introduced the bill, and Admiral Elmo Zumwalt Jr., whose own son, Marine Lieutenant Elmo Zumwalt III, developed Hodgkin's disease and died at the age of 42 after exposure in Vietnam.
There are still veterans who are struggling to receive coverage today. The PACT Act, which was passed in 2022, did help broaden coverage and expand the list of diseases that would be covered by the Agent Orange Act, but there are still a lot of veterans who aren't getting their benefits because it's taking so long to implement the ruling. It's also important to acknowledge that Black veterans are still affected by systemic racism, which the VA has been under the influence of since its founding. The Agent Orange Act itself wasn't inherently racist, but systemic racism does affect Black veterans seeking benefits. It's also important to acknowledge that the Vietnamese people, even those who fought with America, have received little to no coverage for the negative consequences of exposure in their country.